You know my name, you've seen the highlights, the dunks, the trophies, the championships. People look at the end result and call it greatness. But let me tell you the truth, greatness is built on failure. I didn't become who I am because I always won. I became Michael Jordan because I lost over and over again. I missed game-winning shots. I failed to deliver when people were counting on me. I've been trusted with the ball in my hands, and I walked off the court in silence, knowing I let my team down. Do you think that didn't burn inside me? Do you think I didn't feel the weight of disappointment? Every time I walked back to that locker room after a loss, I carried the shame, the anger, the frustration. I replayed every mistake in my head until it haunted me at night. I wasn't born a champion. I had to be forged in the fire of failure. See, people love to celebrate the rings, the MVP titles, the banners hanging in the rafters, but none of that exists without the nights I walked home broken, humiliated, ready to quit. When I was cut from my high school team, that wasn't the end. That was the beginning. When I missed that free throw, when I shot 6 for 30, when I lost a playoff series that everyone expected me to win, that wasn't the end. That was fuel. You think failure defines you? Only if you let it. For me, failure was the hammer that shaped my steel. Every loss carved something inside me. Every mistake forced me to come back sharper, hungrier, more relentless. The truth is, I became obsessed with never letting the same mistake beat me twice. Obsessed with practicing longer than anyone else. Obsessed with turning weakness into strength. And here's the secret. The more I failed, the stronger I became. Because I wasn't afraid of it. I embraced it. I looked failure in the face and said, you won't stop me, you'll teach me. So don't look at my career and think it was a straight line to the top. It wasn't. It was a staircase of failures, one after another, that I climbed until I stood on the summit. I lost again and again. And that's exactly why I won. People think the hardest battles happen on the court. They don't. The hardest battles happen in your mind. When the world doubts you, when you doubt yourself, I've stood at the free throw line with millions watching, but the loudest voices weren't in the arena. They were in my head. You're not good enough. You're gonna miss. You'll choke again. That's the war nobody sees, the one that starts inside. I was expected to be perfect. Every night, every game, reporters waiting to tear me down, fans ready to judge every shot, teammates depending on me to deliver. You think that pressure is easy? You think greatness is glamorous? No, greatness is heavy. It crushes you if you're not strong enough to carry it. And there were nights when I wasn't strong enough. Nights when I went home and stared at the ceiling asking myself, can I keep doing this? Can I take another loss, another failure? I doubted, I feared, I broke. But here's the thing, you don't grow in comfort. You grow in pain. When the critics laughed, when the newspapers wrote I couldn't win without a team, when people said I wasn't clutch, that cut me deeper than any defender ever could. But instead of running from it, I bled with it. I let the pain remind me that I was alive, that I had more to give. Losing taught me something. Winning never could. It taught me humility. It taught me hunger. It taught me that the world doesn't hand you respect. You take it one play at a time, one fight at a time. I remember walking into empty gyms long after practice was over. Everyone else went home. But I stayed. I stayed because I couldn't accept being average. I stayed because failure had scarred me so deeply that I refused to let it be the final word. That's what failure does. If you let it, it either breaks you or it builds you. And I chose to let it build me. So when you see the highlights, when you see me flying through the air, don't just see the glory, see the scars, see the nights of doubt, the anger, the endless hours when no one believed in me but me. I lost again and again, and every loss carried me one step closer to becoming unstoppable. Failure gave me two choices, stay down or rise. And every time I hit the floor, I chose to rise. Not because it was easy, but because I refused to live with regret. You see, losing wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of my evolution. Each defeat was a mirror, showing me who I really was, not the superstar, not the image people worship, but the man underneath. And the man underneath had to decide, are you going to let this moment define you, or are you going to redefine yourself? I chose to redefine myself. When I missed shots in the clutch, I went back and shot them 1,000 times in practice. When I got beaten physically, I built my body until no one could overpower me. When teams broke my spirit in the playoffs, I rebuilt it piece by piece until my will was unshakable. I wasn't chasing perfection, I was chasing progress. Perfection is an illusion. Progress is a decision you make every single day. Every bruise, every failure, every sleepless night, they were my training ground. My mistakes weren't a curse, they were my teachers. And every lesson carved me into something harder, sharper, stronger. Greatness isn't talent. Talent can take you to the door. But obsession opens it. And I was obsessed with proving that every failure, every doubt, every scar was worth something. I turned my losses into fire. I turned my doubts into discipline. I turned every voice that said you can't into fuel that screamed inside me, watch me. That's why when the moment came, when the game was on the line and the world held its breath, I wanted the ball, not because I was guaranteed to succeed, but because I had failed so many times before that I wasn't afraid of failing again. And that's the secret. You can't beat the man who's not afraid to lose. You can't break the man who's been broken 100 times and still rises. I didn't run from failure. I ran toward it. I shook its hand. I made it my partner. And together, we built the legend you see today. So if you ask me what made me great, I'll tell you the truth, not the trophies, not the highlights, not the applause. What made me great was losing again and again, and refusing to stay down. So here's the truth. My story isn't about basketball. It's about life. And life will beat you down harder than any opponent ever could. It will embarrass you, humble you, strip you of everything you thought you had. But when that happens, when you lose, when you fail, when the world points its finger at you and says you're done, that's the moment you get to decide who you really are. I lost again and again, but I refused to accept that as the end. Every failure became a step. Every step became momentum, and momentum became greatness. Listen to me, failure is not your enemy. Comfort is, fear is, quitting is, failure is the greatest ally you will ever have if you learn to use it. You want to be great, then you better be ready to suffer, to bleed, to lose sleep, to fall on your face and stand back up with fire in your eyes. Because greatness doesn't live in the highlight reels. It lives in the shadows, where nobody's watching, where it's just you, your demons, and your decision to keep going. That's what I want you to remember. Not the championships, not the rings. Remember the man who missed. Remember the man who fell short. Remember the man who failed over and over and refused to give up. Because that's not just my story, that's your story too. You're gonna lose, you're gonna fail, people are gonna doubt you, laugh at you, call you crazy, good, let them. That's fuel. That's the spark that can either burn you down or ignite you. The difference between the ones who make it and the ones who don't. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not gifts, it's resilience. It's the refusal to quit. It's the decision to rise one more time than you fall. So the next time you fail, don't hide from it, don't run from it. Look it in the eye and say, thank you, you just made me stronger. I'm not here to tell you that you'll never lose. I'm here to tell you that if you keep going, if you refuse to let failure define you, one day people will look at you the way they looked at me and they'll only see the greatness. They won't see the scars, but you'll know what it took. And when that day comes, you'll stand tall, not because you never lost, but because you lost again and again and you never surrendered.